I'd like to say hello. My name is Max Vixie. I own a YouTube channel known as XX Studios, as well as a cosplay page known as XX Cosplay. How's everyone doing today? Having fun here at the con?
Yeah!
Oh, that's great to hear. So, I'm guessing you probably are because you went to this panel, but just show of hands, who here likes watching superheroes in regards to TV or movies? Show of hands. Wow, that's a very good sign. And yeah, and this is basically what I'm here to talk about in regards to how we basically see our superheroes in different forms of media. And I do apologize if I look down at my iPad sometimes. This is my first ever panel, so just for the record, I am not checking my Twitter when I'm checking this, okay? Okay. So, I'm sure that a lot of you have your own forms of opinion when it comes to certain superheroes and how they're seen in television and in film. For me growing up, it was always a case of whether it's Marvel or DC. I mean, times have changed a bit, of course, but when I was growing up as a kid, I was always asked, what side are you on? Are you siding Captain America or Superman? Batman or Spider-Man? Justice League or the Avengers? You get the idea. I mean, for my generation, it was practically just picking between Marvel, DC, like it was picking between jam or jelly, or Nintendo and Sega. It was just a matter of opinion. Okay, so, but let me just ask you guys, what is your favorite superhero movie you've seen in a few years? Like, what? Like, do you possibly the Avengers or say
Winter Soldier?
Ah, yeah, Captain America: Winter Soldier. Yeah, I see. That's a very nice cosplay, by the way. And I'm sure, lots of you. Yes.
The Punisher. Any of them.
Ah, very nice. Have you seen the new Netflix series yet?
Yeah, binge watched all yesterday. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best series since they've had it.
I just started the first episode last night, but yeah, pretty awesome stuff, and we'll be talking about that later on in this discussion. But yeah, so I would have to show you on the board here, but since we're having some troubles, basically when it comes to movies, plenty of people, if you ask them, would recognize the name Marvel. And when you say something along the lines of cartoons or television and superheroes, people might say DC. Marvel movies and DC TV, they seem to be, from what I've perceived out through the years, something that's been integrated through the whole pop culture. Oh, we have it there? All right. There we are. Ah, there we go. Alright, there we go. Now I got some visual representation. So yeah, basically for lots of people there is a clash between either Marvel or DC. But that's not Marvel DC, that's just two Marvel characters. My mistake. But hang on, let's look at the numbers. As you can see, in terms of movies, Marvel has the upper hand. In fact, there's only two DC movies that are up there, and both of them are Batman movies, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Everything else in this top 10, which is not as recent as I thought it would be, but pretty still recent. Basically, we have Marvel movies getting the most box office numbers. Now, as you can see, Marvel's The Avengers is at number 1 with over $600 million in the box office gross. And for a lot of people, that was a huge milestone with Hollywood, because if people do recall back in 2012, The Avengers as a movie, as a concept, people thought couldn't be done and shouldn't be done. How could we possibly explain the the justification of having different superheroes from different movies all together in the same film. But to Hollywood's surprise and to the joy of the fans, it happened and it was amazing. Just goes to show that anything is possible when done the right way. But that's not to say I'm going down on DC, because they have their own achievements. For example, some people might not remember the hit TV show Smallville, which was basically a young Clark Kent honing his powers to become Superman. Now, does anyone know how long this series lasted? Yeah.
I think it's lasted till 09.
Actually, you are correct. This series here lasted for 10 long seasons until it all wrapped up in the last season. I mean, 10 seasons, just for a series alone, that's a big achievement. But this was a superhero series. And whether you like it or not, it does show how much DC has in terms of live-action superheroes. Now, back to the topic of Marvel movies, it has come a long way. I mean, we've had the Sam Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man films starting back in 2002, but it seems as though Marvel hasn't really got its major prime in terms of the future of Marvel films until 2008, and that was with the Iron Man film. And as such, that Iron Man just basically planted the seed of having Marvel films be expanded upon in its own universe, showing us great vast levels of continuity from one movie overlapping onto another, giving us hints. Now, everyone who goes to a Marvel movie knows that they have to stay till the end credits because it might be another teaser. But yeah, and as such, there's no longer a question of can the Avengers, is it possible to bring superheroes together? Now the question is, what can Marvel do that won't fail? Because they were able to make a superhero known as Ant-Man, a character who shrinks down to the size of an ant, relatable, and able to target mass audiences and to be vastly entertaining. As such, we have cases where they're going to talk about Black Panther, which will be the first African-American superhero to have his own solo film. And as such, in the same year, Captain Marvel, which will be the first female superhero to have her own solo film. So really, everyone's just wondering, what point will Marvel fail, if at any, when making these new leaps in terms of superhero films? But, yeah, they seem to be on a roll. And let's not forget how massive the Infinity War will be when the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy all meet together. Yeah, it's gonna be, that will be the only justification for a movie to be split into two parts. Now how many of you have seen and recognize any of these characters from certain TV shows? Ah, very nice. So I'm sure lots of you are aware of that, the fact that DC TV, DC Comics seem to have their own way when it comes to superheroes in the form of television. Not just in the case of Smallville, but it all started with, right there, in the green hoodie, Arrow, who was just simply called Arrow until he was known as the Green Arrow in season 4. It's a long story, but the point is, from Arrow, starting off small, with a character who just basically knows how some impressive archery skills, they slowly became more relevant and more integrated into the comics. And as such, from Arrow spawned The Flash. And with the success of The Flash in the first season, then spawned another series called Legends of Tomorrow, which is basically kind of like a prototype version of the Justice League with time travel involved. And then we have shows like Gotham, which was a precursor to Batman's series before, he became Batman. It was a very interesting kick, and unfortunately for Constantine, NBC shut him down. But fear not, because Legends of Tomorrow will help him get a nice reprising role. And also the fact that Constantine was also an Arrow that one episode was pretty sweet. Point is, what I'm trying to make here is that, oh, and let's not forget, has anyone seen Supergirl on CBS yet? Well, for those who haven't, you should check it out because The Flash will actually be crossing over on her show come March 28th, which will be very exciting. But you get what I'm seeing, right? The fact is that DC has been able to make so many advances with their television series, with the live-action superheroes, and it's pretty remarkable. That is to say that we have, like, on primetime television now, we have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
Those shows are also that well, but not as much as encompassing and well-focused as, say, the DC Comics. But that is to say things aren't changing. While people see Marvel as movies and DC as TV, there have been times in which both franchises have been expanding a little bit further out of their own comfort zones. For example, last year, around this time in spring, well, when it actually felt like spring, Daredevil was released onto Netflix. Because, let's face it, the Daredevil movie that we had like back in 2003 or so wasn't the best effort. But with the help of Netflix and Marvel, and the fact of them reaching out and expanding to be a bit more darker and grittier,
Yes.
we got a series that was really true to Daredevil's nature. That was really like it left off the comics. And that gave Vincent D'Onofrio, playing Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, a pretty damn impressive scene. And also giving a chance to see a villain when he's not just like a bad guy, like I want to rule the city and kill everybody. Like it gave him depth and layers. And with that success, being that Daredevil became one of the most successful Netflix series at the time, came yesterday season 2 being dropped. And a few months before that, Jessica Jones, which also focused a bit more on the aspect of superheroes living in Hell's Kitchen. And the fact of them integrating the facts that, yeah, we know about the Avengers event in New York. That's all integrated. We are aware of that. Not everyone really likes the superheroes and all that. And as such, we're getting even more Netflix series. We're going to get Luke Cage come September. And sure enough, we're going to get Iron Fist. And it's almost like, wow, even when they're not in movie form, Marvel is still forming a new popular team, the Defenders, on the Netflix battlefront. So yeah, even if it's not on live TV, it's still a television series. It's pretty damn awesome. And of course, come next weekend, there will be a game changer for DC. Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. I cannot tell you how hyped I am. Now, I'm sure plenty of people have their own opinion with Zack Snyder and the Man of Steel film, but the fact remains that this is happening. This has never happened on silver screen before, ever. It may have happened in cartoon form, but never in live action. Not only will we see Batman, played by Ben Affleck, and Superman, played by Henry Cavill, on the same screen together and facing each other off, similar to how The Dark Knight Rises in the whole conflict of interest, but we'll have Gal Gadot here playing Wonder Woman in a more respectable sense as opposed to, say, like the 1970s TV series. Which were fun, but more campy. This will be the first time in history of comic book superheroes and in film where the Trinity will be on the silver screen. Whether you prefer Zack Snyder or not, you gotta admit that's a pretty impressive feat. And it just shows how more there is to come on the horizon. So, while Marvel is indeed best known for their movies, and DC is best known for the television series, one has to admit that both franchises are reaching more to what they usually do in order to expand to a greater audience, to expand to wider universes. I mean, new stories are being told, new teams and partnerships are being foretold and forged from all of this. From the Justice League movies coming out in 2 parts, to the Defenders forming on Netflix area, to just what we know as Marvel movies and the television shows we saw from DC Comics. It just shows that there are a lot of things that both franchises are willing to pursue. And I'm sure lots of them are considering, like, well, we're trying to outdo Marvel or we're trying to keep up the pace of DC, but really, does the competition truly matter? Is it not just for the fact that like when we were kids reading comic books or watching these cartoons, we were always thinking, man, I wish we could see movies like that, or watch more television shows like that. And here we are, in the year 2016, where not only shows and movies are like that, but they're even going farther and beyond than we could possibly dream of. And for me, it's just a massive feeling, because seeing comic book heroes, some of my idols, come to life on the big screen, or in the same case, the small screen, it just gives me a massive feeling of excitement and joy. And I'm certain that there are some of you in here, in this very panel room, feel the same way. So honestly, when people ask me, do you prefer Marvel or DC? And I kind of enjoy both, because both have a lot of great to offer. And both franchises are doing things every day in order to make a name for themselves, in order to expand upon their franchises. And whether you prefer Marvel or DC, I think we can all agree that, as of today, in terms of superheroes, it is a pretty awesome time to be a nerd.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to add the conversation, maybe some of the stories. I still have like 15 minutes left. Well, how about a little bit more backstory. One of the first Marvel movies I've actually seen when I was a kid was the 2002 Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. And it was actually a pretty cool experience, actually getting a chance to get more involved with Marvel films and seeing how it evolved over the years. And personally, I'm very excited to see Spider-Man return in Captain America Civil War. And anyone else have something to add? Yes, you
Question.
Yeah?
Because I'm not, you probably know more than me. What happened to, I know with Spider-Man, Sony had it, they did 2 movies with him, and that got stopped. And then they were doing something else, but now it seems it's been halted because now he's going to be in Civil War? Like, what's happening with Spider-Man?
Well, yes, that is a good question. For those that don't know, that there are like a lot of property involvement with certain like characters and teams. Like for instance, like Sony has at least had it for a while rights to Spider-Man, and meanwhile we have Fox Studios and the rights to Deadpool and the X-Men and unfortunately the Fantastic Four, which hasn't been that fantastic. Yeah. Anyway. What you mentioned was very interesting. You see, what Sony was dealing with the fact that after the less than stellar and not so amazing Spider-Man 2 film, Sony went back and talked with Marvel discussing, look, I think we can agree that people, even if they are going to Spider-Man films, that we're getting a lot of hate and stuff. Maybe we can do some renegotiations. And this was happening for years, even before Amazing Spider-Man. Marvel Studios, the MCU, trying to get the rights for their famous web sling, even though Sony had the rights. But with the upcoming Captain America Civil War, and like lots of people's doubts, then yeah, Spider-Man will indeed be performing as a Marvel property and be performed right with a different actor. So Sony has little to no involvement other than the fact that maybe they'll get another nice share of some of the portion because Spider-Man's involved. However, in 2017, I do hear that there is a Spider-Man film coming out that will be on the Marvel Cinematic Universe side rather than Sony. However, there are still some certain Spider-Man rights that Sony seems to want to employ. For example, they want to make their own Venom movie. A solo Venom movie. Which also brings up the point that, has anyone seen the movie Deadpool by chance?
Yes.
Ah, very nice.
Why would you ask?
Well, I asked that because there are certain like youngsters here, but anyway. I also want to point out the fact that Deadpool was a big part of like expanding upon more superhero films, because for a long while Ryan Reynolds and the fans wanted a proper Deadpool movie ever since Deadpool was botched up, or I would say a more expletive word, but I'm not going to say it here, and X-Men Origins Wolverine. So since then, people have been wanting, hey Fox, give us a proper Deadpool movie, or at least give us a proper Deadpool character in the next movie. And it's been on and on and on, but after a certain leaked footage came across the line with Deadpool, they saw it was great, and with Ryan Reynolds acting, it seems like he played the part, he was born to play the part of Wade Wilson, Deadpool. They decided, okay, we'll give you your movie. So they went into there, it was going to be rated R, which hasn't been done for a long while, ever since like the early Blade movies or the Punisher films. And they thought, like, because PG-13 has reached a lot of audiences, and it seems like a neutral safe zone when it comes to movies, because just about anybody can go to a PG-13 film and not really be offended. R-rated films are different because, well, they're R-rated. They have expletives and nudity and vast amounts of blood and, yes, sex. But so even Fox was thinking, okay, we're not going to hold our breath or anything, because I think we all agree that PG-13 films get more revenue than R-rated films. Within the first opening weekend, Deadpool, an R-rated superhero film, shattered records that were set by 50 Shades of Grey in the opening weekend. Suck it, Twilight fanfiction! And not only that, but it became one of the highest, since there was X-Men characters involved in that film, Deadpool became technically the highest grossing X-Men related movie that was ever been produced thus far. And I believe, last I checked, it made over $300 million, and it's still growing. So not only with that success, and now studios thinking, wait, so fans will go to an R-rated film if it's popular enough? And like, yes, that's what we're telling you. So since then, if anyone hasn't heard, the last Wolverine movie that Hugh Jackman will be playing as Wolverine, which will come in 2017, it will not only likely feature his classic yellow and dark blue costume, but it will finally be rated R. So we'll actually get a closer chance of seeing a more violent Wolverine as people who read comics actually want to. Yes?
That's like basically, I heard one of the things that he has is called Berserker Mode.
Oh, Berserker Rage. Yeah, Berserker Rage.
That's what I want to see.
Yes, begin.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Oh, of course.
Regarding X-Men, what the hell happened with the first three now? Like, is that just not happening? Like with X-Men, Apocalypse?
Yeah, Apocalypse,
that comes out like First Class and
First Class, Days of Future Past,
Days of Future
and
Past like wiped out the first what happened?
Well, I may not. So we may not quote me too much on this, but in terms of what I think really evolved from all this, so the first three X-Men films directed by Bryan Singer, or at least the first two were being directed by Bryan Singer. They were an experiment, an attempt to see how they can do like a proper X-Men films, all the mutants and stuff. I thought they were generally okay. X3, however, that has some problems. But regardless, there were people that wanted to keep on going with certain franchises. Wolverine, obviously, because he's one of the main, well-known X-Men characters within the franchise. So that's why you see a lot of X-Men Origins Wolverine or The Wolverine, or you get the idea. What I think was their goal with them getting like one director for Days of Future. First Class, Matthew Vaughn, I believe, was the director of First Class. And this was basically a chance for the revitalization of X-Men to kind of, essentially a reboot without not really excluding out the fact that there are other characters being played by certain other people. So really it was a confusing timeline, of course. I'm sure Deadpool made that joke again in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so Professor X, McAvoy or Stewart, these confusing timelines are just wild whack. But I really do think that there are these new X-Men films are trying to make up for the past mistakes they made with the other X-Men films, while not really erasing them all completely. As such, we have like new timelines that I'm pretty sure were created from X-Men Days of Future Past, and now it's going to be leading into Apocalypse, which I'm very excited because I grew up watching X-Men Evolution.
So basically, is it like an all in all, like, the studio kind of just wanted to grab up the first three because they weren't sure if they were gonna make money off of it, and that's kind of basically why they just like killed off Xavier and everything, but then actually became popular afterwards? Because like, it makes sense, like, if they're, there's 3 movies, they don't want to push it for, like, they're kind of milking it for all it can right now, and so like, I don't know, so is it kind of like with the third X-Men, they kind of just wanted to put like a closure on it, but then ironically, like a few years later, they started pumping out more of them, like for Wolverine, like you said, and all that stuff.
I'm not entirely sure. Parts of me think that there are some aspects in certain movies that say like we want to conclude it here, and I want to like, because with lots of things like when it regards to either the studio or like the vision of the director, it's a matter of asking the question why the movie exists. Because fans want to, or because they want to make a lot of money by milking a franchise. So a lot of times people are thinking, oh, Fox is obviously milking the life out of X-Men and Wolverine. And that could be said true, but I do believe they are making better attempts and efforts into revitalizing the X-Men franchise and reminding people like we do care about these characters. That's why Bryan Singer hasn't been around for a while, but then they got him back for, say, like Days of Future Past, which was, from what I hear, was also amazing. So, anything else?
I think if they do put Jubilee in the movie, they need to give her her yellow trench coat. 90s look. I'm old school 90s cartoon.
Yeah, I do agree. In fact, it was one of the points that made up I saw it in the Deadpool movie where one of the characters, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, yes, that's what she calls herself, actually had a classic yellow and black X-Men look. And I thought, maybe they can approach that in future X-Men films if they decide to ever make any more X-Men films. But really, it's almost like how studios actually being a bit more separate from their own property with another property that kind of is like borrowing them. It is kind of confusing at times, but it's just a matter of like perspective. Like with Deadpool movie, like we want to give a classic red and black look. With movies like Apocalypse or Days of Future Past, they said make it more like armor-like black look. I mean, it may not look as good, but it looks practical in terms of battle or something. But yeah, it's all a matter of person's preferences and perspective. So did you have a question? Or?
No, I don't think I have a question.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to like kind of comment is like I think like it's also like the studios and such are kind of like starting to learn like if they make content that like pleases fans, then they'll get higher ratings, they'll get more of a profit. So I think it's just like it's not just like it's also, I mean, like, this is just me kind of slightly injecting a little bit of a cynicism because, like, studios are kind of like a business. So, I mean, like, they want to make as much money as possible. Like, but I think they are, like, they're starting to, like, take a note, like, if we start making these movies that are, like, faithful to the comics and, like, things that the original fans would like, we can make a lot of money, we can make a lot of profit, and we can also, while, like, keeping up with this, you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I do believe that there are most studios that are doing that fast.
Yeah.
However, in terms of Fantastic Four, I think we can all agree that it could be in better hands in terms of Marvel. Yes?
Although the guy plays Dr. Doom, the character, I don't know who the actor is, but he played Dr. Doom in the first one.
Yeah?
I think they should have him come back. Like.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, with lots of films, Marvel, DC, that usually it's not always the fault of the actor or actress. It's usually the fault of the direction and the writer deciding where to go with it. Like, for example, like I mentioned before, the Daredevil movie starring Ben Affleck wasn't the quintessential best, and it actually spawned off an even worse Elektra film. But from with that, we can't say like, oh, Ben Affleck is just a horrible guy to do superhero films, because he has done incredible films that are not superheroes that he's done before. He's even directed some of his own films. So it's not really on the fault of the actor or actress, but more on the fault of the writers and directors. I mean, I'm sure, has anyone seen the movie Creed with starring Michael B. Jordan?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you can agree that with a guy like him starring in Fantastic, it wasn't his fault in terms of the movie and its quality. It was more just on the fault that Fox was actually trying to rush out a product so they can keep the rights to Fantastic Four, which is pretty
I was going to
unfair.
say, like all the previous Marvel films from years ago, especially with like the Tobey Maguire and Kristen Dunst Spider-Man films, how are they going to tie it all to like the current Marvel Universe cinematic thing?
Well, that is a point where, like, as I mentioned in Iron Man, that was basically where the starting point for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, from Iron Man on, all these Marvel movies have continuity and link toward each other. So I think basically that is the starting point. Like, they do acknowledge some aspects from like other previous films, but 2008 was basically the year where the cinematic universe was formed. And alright, I think that's about it. Thank you very much for joining me. I have some information linked to my pages, so yeah, thanks again for having me.